is Kalli Smith. In today's speech, Kalli is going off manual to share a personal story about her recent conversion to Christianity. Kalli's speech is titled, Good News. The speech time, Sue, is 5 to 7 minutes. Please welcome Kalli.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters.
Good morning. Good morning.
I wanted to use this speech opportunity today to talk about a truly profound spiritual experience that I had recently. But when I really think back on it, it's actually happened to me before. It all started in 3rd grade when I went to Vacation Bible School, and I remember saying this prayer, accepting Jesus into my heart. And I remember asking a woman there what heaven was like, and she said that everyone got to live in a mansion and the streets were paved with gold. I was raised in a Christian family, except that no one in my family went to church or read the Bible. We would say grace before dinner and our prayers before going to sleep, but Jesus was this distant figure, and I never really had a relationship with him or God, even though we called ourselves Christian. When I was in 7th grade, I really wanted to be Christian and do Christian things. I don't remember why exactly, but I wanted my family to go to church with me. It was pretty awkward to be 14 and not know how to drive, and to be asking your family to go to church with you rather than the other way around. I did get my family to go with me a few times. Then late one night, I was on the family computer in the living room. This was 2001, mind you, and I stumbled upon this Christian chat room. Now, for those of you who don't know what a chat room is, they were all the rage in the late 90s and early 2000s, and they didn't have the best reputation. It was really easy to meet bad people in chat rooms, but this chat room was completely different. So I was sitting there typing, talking to this group about the difficulty that I was having with my family and keeping my faith. And I was so struck by their kindness and sympathy towards me. And they did ask me if I had accepted Jesus into my heart, and I said that I did, but it was back in 3rd grade, so I didn't really understand what it meant back then. So through the prompting of a nameless friend from the other side of my computer monitor, I prayed the words that she was typing, that Jesus Christ suffered and died and was resurrected so that I might live a full life. And then something totally miraculous happened. I was lying on the couch next to the computer, and my eyes were just wide open, and I could feel this powerful presence. And it was this power of knowing that Jesus Christ was real, and I couldn't doubt it even if I wanted to. It was just this palpable, tangible feeling. Despite how profound that experience was, I started thinking that I couldn't do the right Christian things, and that meant that I wasn't good enough for God, whatever that means. Looking back on it now, I think it's kind of a silly thought, but that's how I thought when I was 14. In other words, since I couldn't do everything perfectly as a Christian, I just wouldn't do it at all. So fast forward 3 years to 10th grade, that was the first year that I stopped identifying as Christian. And I was more of what you would call agnostic at that time. And I also started to think of Christians as these really judgmental people. I wanted absolutely nothing to do with them or Jesus. I assumed they were judging me because they thought that they were better than me because they could do all the Christian things and I couldn't. In 12th grade, I had another shift in my spiritual life. One day I was in Barnes & Noble, and I was drawn to this book by Doreen Virtue, who at the time was this profound, prolific New Age author. And for those of you who don't know, New Age is a spiritual, largely non-Christian movement. It consists of a variety of beliefs and practices, including things like tarot and crystals and Reiki and energy healing and consciousness and manifestation and low and high vibration and astrology and the law of attraction and a lot of other metaphysical things. It's hard to pin down one defining practice in the New Age movement. For many years I was using these oracle cards that Doreen Virtue created to receive guidance from angels on various ups and downs through my life. The oracle cards are kind of like tarot cards, but they're a little different. And that was the beginning of my interaction with the supernatural. From that moment on, the supernatural's always been very real for me. Most people don't perceive that aspect of our reality, so I never bothered to reveal that part of my experience to others, even though there was this huge movement towards that. It's just I didn't have this like safe space group usually to talk about those things. So for the sake of today, let's just say I was always in the spiritual closet. Seriously. However, over the past year, I kept meeting all these Christians. They just kept popping into my life. My cousin came down to town for a visit, and he got baptized, and so I stayed in touch with the woman who baptized him. My saxophone teacher was born again. A kid I met at the airport on the way to Barcelona was going, in January, was going on this mission trip. It was just like, whoa, what is going on? Why am I meeting all these people? And then in February, I started dating this guy who's Christian, and he invited me to church. And he didn't like pressure me or anything. He's just like, do you want to go? And I was like, okay, I was curious. And so after we got out, I was like, can we go back next week? And he was totally shocked by that. But yeah, we went back, and I haven't stopped going since then. And then I started reading the Bible because I was like, okay, like, let's test this thing out, let's try this on. And I was so thirsty and genuinely excited and just wanted to know more and more and more. And as I kept reading, the words kept unfolding for me and adding meaning to my life as if they were alive. Spoiler alert, they are. Also, for the first time since 7th grade, I started praying, really praying to God. It felt really strange at first, but then again, how did I expect it to feel? It's like picking up the phone and calling a friend after 15 years of not talking. Of course, it's going to feel a little strange. So I kept at it despite that discomfort. One night during my trial period of trying to understand if this Christian thing was for me, I just got on my knees and started praying and sobbing, and I said, Jesus, I know we haven't talked in a while, but I'm so lost. I have no anchor in my life. I think you could be that anchor. Jesus, if I'm supposed to follow you, please lead me. On Palm Sunday in church, everything changed. During the sermon, I felt like the pastor was talking directly to my heart. He said, I know you're confused. Yup. I know you don't know what you're doing. Uh-huh. Then he said, don't wait till next Sunday. You don't have to be fixed and ready and presentable before you come to Jesus. No, you come to Jesus first, and then he fixes you. You see, I've been waiting for the right time. But the pastor was encouraging me to take a leap of faith, and then the miracle would happen. And that's the definition of walking in faith, which is something Christians live by. So then he prompted us to say a prayer in our hearts. It was the same prayer I said in 3rd grade and in the chat room in 7th grade. And everyone had their heads bowed and no one was looking. And then he said, on the count of 3, I want you to raise your hand if you ask Jesus into your heart today. And my hand just shot in the air before he even got to 3. From that moment on, my life completely changed, and it's still changing. For 2 solid weeks, I was filled with this indescribable joy. I wanted to tell everyone the good news that I had given my life to Christ because he'd given his life for me. Any joy that I'd gotten out of New Age beliefs just completely paled in comparison to this joy. And I felt a lot of peace inside. When I was in the New Age movement, every time I discovered a new piece of esoteric wisdom, there was always another rabbit hole to go down. I could never actually find answers to these never-ending spiral of questions, so I would just make up answers for what it all meant. By believing in everything, I assumed I was inclusive and open, and that Christians were just closed-minded and narrow in their views. But in the end, I actually believed in nothing. And they truly stood for something bigger than themselves. And then I realized I was being judgmental of Christians, not the other way around. All the Christians that I've met over the past year were kind and happy, and I finally realized why they were so happy. My journey has only just begun, of course, and there's still a lot to learn. But I just had to share the good news with somebody. Thank you.